Okay, good morning, everybody. We're starting with a new shiur with a midrash. I decided because of your recommendation, Mordi, that teaching Rashi and Ramban is from the one side very simple to people who are familiar with Rashi and Ramban because they just read it and they know it already. And from the other side, for those who are not familiar with Rashi and Ramban, it's too fast because I have a lot of material and go over it, and I don't have time to concentrate into each and every Rashi or Ramban. So we'll do from now on Midrash. Midrash is a raw material. It's very easy because we don't read much. Even if I send you a long Midrash, we'll do just pieces of it. And from then on, we can, everybody can think of the things that the Midrash say and develop it for himself, herself. So I hope that it will be easier and more familiar to the people. Okay, so good morning. Let's do the Midrash Bo. We're starting in Parshat Bo to Halacha Lema'aseh, the beginning of Yetziat Mitzrayim and the beginning of Am Yisrael. As you remember, the first Rashi on the Chumash, Rashi starts with asking, why did the Torah start with Maaseh Bereshit and not from Mitzvat Kiddush HaChodesh? Because Rashi is based on an assumption that the Torah is a Sefer Mitzvot, and therefore, as a book of mitzvahs, you would think that the Torah would start from the first mitzvah. It's not the first mitzvah. The first mitzvah is Milah in Parshat Lech Lecha, but the first mitzvah for the public, which is Chodesh Hazeh Lachem, Shmot Yud Bet per Pasuk Aleph. So let's start from this mitzvah. And as you know, Chodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim, it can be Mitzvat Kiddush HaChodesh, as we know from the Mishnayot of Masechet Rosh Hashanah. Now we have a calendar from the 3rd or 4th century that Hillel, not Hillel HaZaken, the famous Hillel, but the Hillel the second or Hillel the third, there is a machloket whether it was the second or the third. He established the Luach, as we know nowadays, and it was a 300 AD. So from then on, we don't need all the calculations, all the Kiddush HaChodesh. But till then, Rosh Chodesh was based on the seeing. Edim watched the Levana, watched the moon, and came to Beis Din in order to make Kiddush HaChodesh. So that's one issue. We can relate to Chodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim. Just, it's a paraphrase. We're starting a new era, something like this. We can relate to it as the beginning of the calendar, which is that Nisan, Chodesh Nisan is the first Chodesh of the calendar in the Jewish calendar, the Jewish Luach, and not Tishrei as we know today. We can relate to it in a lot of meanings. So let's start the Midrash. We'll see. There are a lot of Midrashim. The Midrash in Shmot Rabbah. Shmot Rabbah is a Midrash Rabbah on Sefer Shmot. You know that the Midrash is separated into two parts. One part is a Midrash Agadah, which is a Agadah on the Psukim. It's Yalkut Shimoni, Midrash Rabbah, Psikta, a lot of Midrashei Agadah. And the second one is Midrashei Halacha, Sifra, Sifri. If you take the halachos out of the Psukim, you usually find them in the Midrash Halacha. Sometimes you have Agadah in Midrash Halacha and Halachot in Midrash Agadah, but basically that's the
Can I ask a question? Can I ask you just a question about Rosh Chodesh? Gil and I got married 25 years ago on Rosh Chodesh Shvat, okay? But it was the second day. But this year there's only one day. Are there at times when there's 2 days Rosh Chodesh of Shvat, or
okay, so
or am I mixed up completely? But I'm pretty sure we got married on this, the second day.
First of all, Mazel Tov.
Thank you.
I have my anniversary actually today. My
Oh, well, so to you was it? Oh, you was on same around the same time, yeah.
20, not 25, but yeah. Okay, Chodesh, Hebrew Chodesh is 29 days and a half, basically. We have 12 hours and more than half an hour. And since we cannot divide, the 30th day into two parts, so we basically make one Chodesh 29, one Chodesh 30 days. Okay, that's basically 10 of the months are like that. So we know that each year Chodesh Elul is 29 days, and Chodesh Tishrei is 30 days, and Chodesh Av is 30 days, and Chodesh Tammuz is 29 days. That's Chodesh, one Chodesh 29, one Chodesh 30 days. But Chodesh Cheshvan and Chodesh Kislev are the only Chodeshim who are change from one year to another.
Not Shvat, not Nash.
And Rosh Chodesh Shvat is actually Chodesh Tevet, and as to my knowledge, it's never, it's always one day. So that's weird. That
Gil's gonna go get the.
You must, you can now check on the web. You can go back 25 years. I'm not sure. As to my knowledge, it's just Cheshvan and Kislev who change. Sometimes they are both 30. Sometimes they are both 29. Sometimes 29 and 30. You know that the famous Haftarah that we have Machar Chodesh on Shmuel Aleph Perek Kaf. So when Shaul chasing after David, and Yonatan, the son of Shaul, tries to let David escape, so he tells him, "You hide, and I'll go to my father and try to convince him that you haven't done anything, etc." Right. So he tells him Machar Chodesh, and how does he know? How can you know that Machar Chodesh? So
it wasn't. What is it? Oh gosh. It wasn't.
Something
we have the wrong day that we.
If you told me that you are at the beginning of Tevis or Kislev, so
what does it say?
There's some
Beit V'Shvat. Yeah. Okay.
Some basic rules. Yeah.
So it wasn't Rosh. Okay, we've been under an illusion for 25 years. Okay.
So you've been
it's like my wife that I try to convince her it's Gimel Shvat, not Bet, because it's not because of the evening, whatever. So we never know, and that enables husbands not to celebrate the anniversary because we don't know when it is.
What can we do? We used to go out for a meal in a fancy restaurant. We're not doing that.
You wasted your money. It wasn't the day.
But we got our fourth, Gil and I got our fourth vaccinations.
Okay.
So next week we could maybe go out. I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry to bother you. No, so I've been mixed up. Okay, it wasn't Rosh Chodesh then. It was big. It wasn't Rosh Chodesh. Okay.
No, it wasn't Rosh Chodesh. So back to David, Yonatan tells him Machar Chodesh. Vayomer lo Yonatan Machar Chodesh, right? So how does Yonatan know on the 29th day of the Chodesh that tomorrow will be Rosh Chodesh? Maybe it's okay. If he on the 29th days, so he knows that tomorrow will be Rosh Chodesh for sure, because it's either a short Chodesh and then tomorrow is Aleph of the next Chodesh, or that it's Lamed of this Chodesh. But if we see there that tomorrow he sits with his father, and then he says, "Oh, David didn't come, never mind." And then the next day there is a Mesibat Rosh Chodesh as well, and then Shaul is very angry. Where is David? So if apparently the second day is Rosh Chodesh, which is Aleph, the first day was Lamed. Okay, so on Kaftet, David or Yonatan knew that Rosh Chodesh is going to be tomorrow. meaning that even it was by re'iyah, by watching, they had their own calculations. We see it from the Mishnah as well, from Rabban Gamliel. He knew that Rosh Chodesh was about to come, but he needed, till the 3rd century, he needed witnesses, edim, in order to be Mekadesh the Chodesh. Never mind. Okay, let's go to the Midrash. ויאמר השם אל משה, החודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים. So the Midrash style is to take a pasuk, then you can think whatever you want on the pasuk. The Midrash will deal with a different pasuk, a different topic, and at the end, he'll go back to the pasuk, which is a title. So the title is החודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים. Hada hu dichtiv. That's what's written in Shir HaShirim. כל דודי הנה זה בא, וכל העניין שנאמר, ענה דודי ואמר לי, מה את עושה כאן במקום טמאים? Okay? So the whole discussion between הקדוש ברוך הוא and Knesset Israel in Shir HaShirim פרק ב', כל דודי והנה זה בא, I'm hearing the voice of my uncle, my husband, and then Dodi, my husband, told me, what are you doing here? So what are you doing here doesn't mean nowadays or in the Golos, but it means, according to the Midrash, in Egypt, in Mitzrayim, in the first Golos, not in the long Golos that we know, but in the first Golos, HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to Am Israel and asks her, called Ana Dodi ve'amar li, what are you doing here? במקום טמאים, as we see in יחזקאל, אשר בשר חמורים בשרם, וזרמת סוסים זרמתם. So you know the אומות העולם, or the Egyptians in details, are called donkeys and horses because they are very material. And they don't, זרמת סוסים זרמתם, they are very, very material, גסים, they don't have anything spiritual. They are just me'im and gasim and grass. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't understand what Am Yisrael is doing in Egypt. Apparently it's his role to take us out of Egypt, but he tells himself to us, what are you doing here? קומי לך, רעייתי יפתי הולכי לך, get up, just הולכי לך, get out of Egypt. אמר לפניו ריבון העולמים, 400 שנה אמרת לנו להשתעבד ועדיין לא שלמו. So, ויאמר השם אל משה, apparently, החודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't order Moshe on the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh and doesn't tell him that that's a beginning of the year, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu argues with Moshe about the finish, about the end of the Golus. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? You should get out of Egypt. So Moshe, as a representative of Am Yisrael, tells him, but what do you want from us? You told us in Brit Ben Abetarim 400 years. It hasn't been finished yet. Amar le, kvar shalmo. No, it's finished. Shneimar, ki hine hasetav avar. So according to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he tells him, no, your calculation, the Midrash doesn't bring as a reason. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe, you're mistaken. The Golus has ended. And Astav Avar, the fall is already gone. Now we're getting to the spring, to חודש ניסן. מיד גילו הצדיקים את ראשיהם שהיו מכוסם, שנאמר הניצנים נראו בארץ, אלו הן שבטו של לוי שהיו צדיקים כולם. So if you read Shir HaShirim, you understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu talks about the blossom of the spring, of the beauty of the nature. When you go out in the days of Nisan, you see ilanot, you see flowers, you see blossom, nitzanim niru ba'aretz. Yes, the starting of the blossom. But the Midrash comes from a perspective that HaKadosh Baruch Hu argues with Am Yisrael. And the HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I have to take you out of Egypt. And then Am Yisrael says, no, it's not a time. So he says, yes, it is a time. And then immediately, הניצנים נראו בארץ. So if you understand that it's not just a description of the nature, but an argument, so how is it possible? So at the same second that Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to take us out of Egypt and tells Am Yisrael that you are mistaken, my calculation is right and you are about to get out, at the same second, there are nitzanim, there are starting of fruit, of blossom. How is it possible? It takes time. You know, if you put a seed in the ground, you water it, and then you wait at least 30, 40 days, and then you see the start of the blossom. So how is it possible that nitzanim niru ba'aretz? Therefore, why the Midrash understands that there are tzaddikim who covered their head, which means that there are, even in Egypt, even in the Tumah, even in Am Yisrael, doesn't behave the way he should do, but there are tzaddikim ready with their head cover meaning that they don't reveal, don't expose themselves to the world, don't say, I'm a tzaddik, I can get out of, and the Mitzrayim, and the Midrash relates the tzaddikim to Eluhem Shivto Shel Levi, Shayu tzaddikim kulam. So the Midrash doesn't write here why, but we know that in other Midrashim that Shevet Levi lo avad b'Mitzrayim, that they weren't in the Shibud. They were like, you know, the priest or the Kohanim, or even Paro understood it and didn't enslave Shevet Levi. And that's why they had time to learn, they had time to deal with spiritual things. And therefore, there were the tzaddikim with their hair covered. They didn't have anything to do with their piousness, because they thought that it will take a long time till they get out of Mitzrayim. Now HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells them, you are mistaken, just get out. So that's why הנצנים נראו בארץ. Meaning that, ויאמר השם אל משה, החודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים, according to the Midrash, now I conclude all the first paragraph, according to the Midrash, it's not an order and not a mitzvah, but it's a small discussion, an argument between Moshe as a representative of Am Yisrael and the Kadosh Baruch Hu, who wants to take them out of Mitzrayim, and Kadosh Baruch Hu tells them, A, your time is now to get out, B, you, Moshe, Aharon, are Shevet Levi, so you are my representative. Now you don't represent Am Yisrael in front of me, you represent me as the tzaddikim of Am Yisrael. דבר אחר, הניצנים, אלו הכהנים, שנאמר, בני אהרון, אלעזר בנו, פנחס בנו. Okay, so till now we saw Aaron HaKohen, he dealt a lot of things, he dealt with Paro, he spoke to him, he used his cane, you know, to hit a river, to hit a Nile, but we don't know of the Ma'amad Kohanim. As a family of Kohanim, we don't see Aaron. We know just that Aaron is a personality. And later on, we'll see that there are Kohanim that will take over in Chet HaEgel from the Bechoros, that take all the place of the, you know, spiritual leaders of the nation. And הניצנים נראו בארץ, אלו הכהנים. So even now in Yetziat Mitzrayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he creates a nation, he needs to know that there are leaders, that there are a shichva, a layer of spiritual leaders. So before, the Midrash said it's Shevet Levi generally, and now the Midrash says, no, it's a Kohanim, even that we don't need them now and we won't see them till Sefer Vayikra, or even Pinchas ben Elazar at the end of Sefer Bamidbar, where he gets the dynasty of Kehuna, but Hanitzanim, the seeds or the starting of the blossom is now. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't let a nation to get out of Egypt without the small special leaders that are waiting on the side, and he'll use them when he needs them. דבר אחר, אותו דבר, הניצנים אלו המלכים, דוד ושלמה, רחבעם, עשה ואביה. So here you can see that the Midrash understand that there are nitzanim. I don't know how to translate it. He translated as sorry? Spout? Sprout, thanks. The sprout is in the Midrash is either Kohanim or Melachim or Leviim or Shivto Shel Levi and Leviim later on. So the Midrash comes from a point of view that if you create a nation, you have to, it's not something that you just do tick and there is a nation. You have to take into account all the future, all the leadership, all the things that will happen in the future. And the Midrash asks to himself, what is the hardcore? What is the גרעין? What is the linchpin? What is the הדבר הכי חשוב, the most important of the nation? So one Midrash here says that it's a Kohanim. One Midrash there says it's a Melachim. Even you won't meet them till David and Shlomo. If you won't meet them till Sefer Shmuel. And even in Sefer Shmuel, they'll ask for a kingdom and Shmuel will be angry at them. And you know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will relate to it as almost like a sin for asking for kings. Even though still now in Yetziat Mitzrayim, you should start thinking of the kings, of the pantheon of each nation. You go to France, they have the pantheon. You go to England, they have their the kings, the kingdom, which is very important. So even now, when years and years before Yetziat Mitzrayim, before Knisat to Eretz Yisrael, before Yoshua period, Shoftim and Shmuel, even though you start thinking about David and Shlomo, and look, Rechavam, David and Shlomo, you might say that they are good kings and the best things we've had, but Rechavam is not such a big king. Asa was good, Aviyah. So it's very clear that you don't look at the king as a person and check out whether he's good or bad, but you look at the dynasty of kingdom. For the Midrash, it's very choshuv here that a nation cannot get out and create in the future its own dynasty of kings, but the nitzanim, the sprout, is here. דבר אחר, אלו הלווים. So it quotes from דברי הימים, אסף הראש הוא משנה וזכריה, כיוון שראה הקדוש ברוך הוא כך, אמר עת הזמיר הגיע הזמן של לווים, לומר לפניי שירים ומזמורים. So this midrash is very similar to this midrash, that you saw שבטו של לוי, but this שבטו של לוי encompasses כהנים and לווים all together. Here we saw just Kohanim, and here we see just Leviim. So if you ask me, the singing of the Leviim in Beit HaMikdash was very nice, was very, something for, if you come to Beit HaMikdash, so you have to show the tayarim, the tourists, you have to show other people how nice it is that the Leviim sing, but it's not so important to the avodah of Beit HaMikdash itself. But from the Midrash here, we see that according to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's very important, and he chooses the Leviim per se, not Shevet Levi as a whole, and he wants, when they sing, so it all started from Mitzrayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu here thinks of the future and yearns for their singing. דבר אחר, עת הזמיר הגיע. Sorry, and here you see that the Midrash, it starts from the discussion between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Knesset Israel and Shir HaShirim Perek Bet, but it uses a little bit more, because עת הזמיר הגיע. Usually we understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says spring is come, and the beauty of the nature, you go out, you hear the birds talking, etc. But according to this Midrash, since the Leviim mentioning is related with singing, That's why we can understand that Et Hazamir Higia doesn't mean literally speaking, doesn't mean generally speaking, but literally speaking. Et Hazamir Higia, it's time of the singing. The time of the singing has come. Higia Zman Shel Levim, Nomar Lefanai Shirim V'Mizmurim. From all these midrashim, we can see that the role of Beit HaMikdash is not something, as we know, there is a machloket, whether the Beit HaMikdash, the Mishkan, is a totza'ah of Chet HaEgel, and without Chet HaEgel, they wouldn't have a Mikdash, because lichora, you can see that the whole bniyah, the whole building of Beit HaMikdash is just in Vayakel Kudei, after Chet HaEgel in Parashat Ki Tisa. But some Meforshim say that the Mishkan was in plan before Chet HaEgel, and now it's the time for the Mishkan. So here we see that the Mishkan, the Mikdash, whatever, the time of Levim, the time of Kohanim, is basically and deeply rooted in the vision of a nation, of when you create a nation, it's there. Davar acher, Et Hazamir Higia. So since the former Midrash dealt with Et Hazamir Higia, the time of singing has come, so now he tells what the singing means. כיוון ששמע הקדוש ברוך הוא את ישראל שאמרו את השירה, אמר וכל התור נשמע בארצנו, ששמע קולן, של ישראל בזכות אברהם שהקריב תור וגוזל, מה כתיב אחריו? התאנה חנתה פגע, אלו הצדיקים והישרים. So what does a shira means? If you just read the first mishpat of the sentence of the Midrash, you can understand that Am Yisrael said shira, but we know that Am Yisrael said shira just very far, in Kafbet Nisan, on Shirat Hayam. Now they're in Aleph Nisan, 3 weeks before. They haven't gone out of Egypt. They didn't see any Shira, and we don't know that they said Shira. There are midrashim that Am Yisrael said some sort of Shira during Yetziat Mitzrayim, and that's why we say Shira on Erev Pesach in the Shul. It's very weird that we say Hallel on it's a Laila, it's a night. But if you go and look deeply in the Midrash doesn't relate to the Shira, to singing, like Shirat Hayam or Shirat Dvorah. The Midrash says to Kolan Shel Israel, meaning Kolan Shel Israel, that Am Yisrael reacts somehow. Till now, Am Yisrael was very passive. He didn't do anything. He just cried. He just zoek. HaKadosh Baruch Hu hears their cry out of the Avodah Kasha. But what did they do in order to get out of Egypt? Till now, nothing. So the Midrash says, no, they did. וכל התור נשמע בארצנו, ששמע קולן של ישראל, בזכות אברהם, שהקריב תור וגוזל. So in Brit Ben HaBetarim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Abraham about the 400 years that your descendants will stay in Egypt, and then will take them, וכו' וכו'. And Abraham hears that, and it doesn't stay passive, but he's makriv tor vegozal. As you know, in Brit Ben HaBetarim was whole based on some behemot that Abraham made as a korban, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him. So there are two sides for this Brit, for this convention, and covenant, sorry, and from both sides, HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises or tells him about the big exile of Mitzrayim, and then the big Yetziat Mitzrayim with Rechush Gadol. And from the other side, Avraham doesn't stay calmly, but he just doesn't just hear, but he is makriv tor vegozal. That's the voice of Avraham. The voice, the shira of Avraham doesn't mean here in this midrash a shira, a singing, but a reaction, that he does something. And because of him, maktiv acharav, התאנה חנתה פגע, אלו הצדיקים והישרים. והגפנים סמדר נתנו ריח, אלו הבינוניים שעשו תשובה. So now we're not dealing with Avraham, we're dealing with his descendants in Mitzrayim, but והתאנה חנתה פגיה, if הקדוש ברוך הוא looks at nature, he sees that the fig is already ripened, and the agfanim, the wines, has already given its smell, meaning that the blossom is on, the spring is come, meaning that Am Yisrael is ready. And you know, on its background, there is a question: for what reason did the Kadosh Baruch Hu take Am Yisrael out of Mitzrayim? Because if you read Parashat Shemot, we see that Am Yisrael just cried, but and then the Kadosh Baruch Hu heard them and decided to take them out of Mitzrayim, etc. But you know that other midrashim said that even in Kriyat Yamsuf, the Malachei HaSharet tells the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Elu va'elu ofdei avodah zarah, both of them, either Israel or Mitzrayim, they both worship other gods, the ofdei avodah zarah. So there is no difference between Am Yisrael and Mitzrayim. And another midrash says that Am Yisrael was in 49 Sharei Tuma, and if he got into the 50th, so that was the end of Chas v'Shalom of Am Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it earlier in order that they won't go into that gate. What does it mean? For what reason? HaKadosh Baruch Hu just took pity on them and decided to take them early? Why didn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu took pity on Mitzrayim or took pity on Nebuchadnezzar? Why did he choose Am Yisrael? So according to some midrashim, there is no explanation. HaKadosh Baruch Hu chooses Am Yisrael for good, without any reason. As we know, HaKadosh Baruch Hu chooses Avraham without any reason. But from here, the Midrash tries to make an atmosphere that Am Yisrael and Nitzanim, the sprout nir'u ba'aretz, that there is a reason why Am Yisrael deserves Geula. And before, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Midrash here spoke about the smell, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can smell in his dimion, kivyachol, imagination. HaKadosh Baruch Hu imagines the kings, HaKadosh Baruch Hu imagines the singing of the Levim, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu thinks of the future and takes them out. But according to this Midrash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't think in the future, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees something in the past. So the past is Avraham, and the present is the tzaddikim, or even beinonim she'asu tshuva. The beinonim she'asu tshuva, meaning that there are some people that were very bad in Mitzrayim, they were of the avodah zarah, but they decided that now the time has come, and they made a tshuva. And therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees, and there Am Yisrael has rights, has zchuyot, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees it as a shira. Mikan va'elach, from now on, kumilach ra'ayati yafati ulchilach. So from now on, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, now you can kumilach. Yes, you can lech. החודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים, get out of Egypt. כשיצאו ישראל ממצרים, אמר להם הקדוש ברוך הוא, אין לכם חודש אחר גדול מזה, לפיכך נקרא ראשון, שנאמר ראש חודשים. So, you know, according to this person who made the psik here, the comma, I cannot interpret it well, because there is no relation between the whole this part and this sentence, because this sentence says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told them, you have no better month than any other month. That's why Nisan is called Rishon. So how can you understand that? Why is it related to all we have said before? Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells them, now you have zchuyot, now you have tzaddikim, now you have beinonim who made tshuva, so now you have the rights. This month, I don't know what would happen tomorrow. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is right, because when it comes to Iyar, they have a lot of chataim in the midbar of the water and the Amalek and a lot of things. So now I see that you have tshuva. Now I see that you have tzaddikim, and therefore I take the month of now, and that will be the beginning. I would do it without the comma. I would do it just with a nekuda, with a dot, at the end of the first paragraph, and then it's a sikum, it's a sum up of which doesn't have bedavka linkage to all we've said before, and the Midrash changes something from all we said before. It's just what's the reason to get out of Mitzrayim. Now it's just a statement that Rosh Chodashim. Why is it called Rosh Chodashim? אמר לכם, הקדוש ברוך הוא אין לכם חודש אחר גדול מזה. But I think we can relate it to the beginning, to here, that there was a discussion between Moshe and the Kadosh Baruch Hu, whether the Golut has ended or not, and Kadosh Baruch Hu convinced Moshe that yes, and therefore, now HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, because of all the things, never mind if it's Melachim, Leviim, Zchuyot of Avraham, Zchuyot of yourself, now you're Rauim Latzet. So, okay, let's remember this day, remember this Rosh Chodesh, from now on, אין לכם חודש אלא ראש חודשים. דבר אחר, what I want to, I don't know if I say it and you understand what I'm trying to say. What I want to say is that Midrash starts with a posuk and finish with a posuk. The whole malach of the Midrash all over has to end with its beginning. That's a very classical Midrash. It starts with the Rosh Chodashim. We have to understand what it means. Then the Midrash goes to different topics and then goes back. So we try to understand in each Midrash the topic, the middle of the Midrash, but the beginning and the end, we have to connect them and to understand exactly what the end answers, what was unclear at the beginning. So the unclear was what's the significance of Chodesh Nisan. I think that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu somehow says that the situation in which you're here, tzaddikim, smell of singing, kings, whatever, all of them is ready that Chodesh Nisan is unique. דבר אחר, ראשון הוא לכם, כביכול הקדוש ברוך הוא שנקרא ראשון, שנאמר אני ראשון ואני אחרון, וציון נקרא ראשון, שנאמר כיסא כבוד, מרום, מראשון, מקום, מקדשנו. So now the Midrash would relate to the word Rishon. Rishon doesn't mean just the beginning or just the first one. Rishon meaning the main one. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a main in עולם הזה, in מציאות בכלל. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the main מקומו של עולם, the place itself, and that's why he's called אני ראשון. ציון, ארץ ישראל, is called כיסא כבוד מרום מראשון מקום מקדשנו, and even עשיו נקרא ראשון, שנאמר ביצא הראשון. You know, the Maharal speaks about it a lot of times. That's a Rishon, the Bikurim that we have to take from the first fruit, and the Truma or Chala that we take from the Mereshit Arisoteichem, that once you make the dough and you mix water with the flour and you have a dough. So you have to take from the beginning. The Maharal says what the beginning means. The beginning means the essence. The firstborn is the essence of the family. The Bikurim is the essence of your economy, of your all success in Gidulei Karka. Okay, so even Amalek, Reshit Goyim Amalek. Amalek is called the Rishon, and Esav is the firstborn because he is very, very ikari. He's very, very deeply rooted in the creation of the world, because you have in the world Am Yisrael, you have a Kadosh Baruch Hu, but you have the itnagdut to Am Yisrael, the opposite side of Am Yisrael, which is Esav. Therefore, why is called Rishon? Kadosh Baruch Hu Rishon, Esav Rishon, ויצא הראשון. ומשיח נקרא ראשון. שנאמר ראשון לציון הנה הנם. Yes, so Mashiach is called ראשון. יבוא הקדוש ברוך הוא שנקרא ראשון. That's what a lot of midrashim saying, you know, it's like poetry. יבוא הקדוש ברוך הוא שנקרא ראשון, הקדוש ברוך הוא, he is the first, he'll come, ויבנה בית המקדש שנקרא ראשון, ויפרע מן עשיו שנקרא ראשון, yes, he'll punish עשיו, who is called ראשון, ויבוא משיח שנקרא ראשון בחודש הראשון, שנאמר החודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים. So here the midrash understands the word ראשון as the main, not as a first, but as the main, and he wants to say that this Nisan is not only the time when Am Yisrael got out of Egypt, but the time when the whole Metzius will end, you know, in during the Mashiach time. And let's do another one and last one. דבר אחר, החודש הזה לכם, pay attention that each time the Midrash deals with different words. Here is ראשון הוא לכם, החודש הזה לכם. Yes, different things. אמרו מלאכי השרת לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא. ריבון העולם, מתי אתה עושה את המועדות? When do you do? זה מועדות, זה רגלים, פסח, שבועות, סוכות, are very important and significant to the מציאות, שכן כתיב בספר דניאל, בגזירת עירין פתגמה. So הקדוש ברוך הוא says there that a lot of things are called because גזירת עירין, because of גזירה of מלאכים. So they expect הקדוש ברוך הוא to לקבוע, to set the מועדות, and to say פסח is today, שבועות is tomorrow, סוכות is in חודש תשרי, whatever. אמר להם, no, אני ואתם מסכים או מסכימים על מה שישראל גומרים ומעברים את השנה. So I cannot set any מועדות. It's not as you think that it's a gzeira from me. No. The מועדות are dependent on the decision of עם ישראל. Here it's שעם ישראל גומרים ומעברים את השנה, because in this year we have second Adar, and without it, when you celebrate Purim, it would be Pesach. So Am Yisrael כאילו postpones Pesach in a month. There is a reason why to do it, but never, the Midrash here doesn't deal with the reason. שנאמר, אקרא לאלוהים עליון, על כל אלוקים, which is עליון superior, לאל גומר עליי, which is the God which depends or decides just after me. וכן הוא אומר, אלה מועדי השם מקראי קודש, you know, in פרשת אמור, זה פרשת of the מועדות, אשר תקראו אותם במועדם. So the מדרש says, זה מדרש הלכה, in the Gemara, in ראש השונה, במשנה, אתם, אשר תקראו אותם במועדם, אל תקראי אותם, אלא אתם. You'll decide when it is. אתם, בין בזמנם, בין שלא בזמנם. As we see from the Mishnayot in Rosh Hashanah, that as I started saying, that even if you have calculation, tonight is Rosh Chodesh, and two lazy witnesses came, and they came late, and we didn't have time to be Mekadesh the Chodesh on time before the night, so we postpone Rosh Chodesh till tomorrow, even if we know that the truth and the, you know, the astronomic truth is that today is Rosh Chodesh. No, we postpone it in a day, and therefore we postpone Pesach, we postpone Rosh Hashanah, we postpone Yom Kippur. We, Am Yisrael, have rules, and we decided that Rosh Chodesh is postponed because we will not Mekadesh the Chodesh at night. Okay, it depends on us, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu agrees, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu tries to convince the Malachim that you don't decide, I don't decide, it's their decision. אמר להם HaKadosh Baruch Hu לישראל, לשעבר היה בידי, till now it was in my hand, שנאמר עשה ירח למועדים. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the moon, which, and the whole calendar depends on the moon. אבל מכאן ואילך הרי מסורה בידכם ברשותכם. אם אמרתם הן הן, very nice. אם אמרתם לאו, לאו. מכל מקום יהיה החודש הזה לכם. If בית was מקדש לחודש, very good. If not, I will wait. ולא עוד, אלא אם ביקשתם לעבר את השנה, הרי אני משלים עמכם. מכך כתיב, החודש הזה לכם. So it's interesting because the main reason to be me'aber the shana is in order that Pesach would be chal in the Aviv, שמור את חודש האביב. But according to the Midrash, it's not from a halachic perspective or reason, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives it into the hands of Am Yisrael and wants them to decide whatever they want. If you decide that this year is Me'uberet, okay, I don't say anything, I'll wait another month till Pesach. And that's why HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, and it's Mamash Lachem, it's your own choice to decide on Rosh Chodesh, and Rosh Chodesh is less important, the Mo'adot are the main thing here. We'll stop here. תודה רבה. שבוע טוב.